are indeed. Welcome back, the Immortalites, to Musings, a chance for us to have a bit of a conversation on a particular topic, always in mind. We like to go pretty deep, sometimes shallow, sometimes broad, depends on the topic. But today's one is consistency. So you've got Juan on this side.
And you've got Kyrin here on the other side.
Now we go live 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So for those who are live joining us, hello, g'day. If you aren't live right now, if you're not checking us in, then absolutely feel free to go and join us at any point in time. We were doing a little bit of a preamble before this one as well, just to kind of let you know that we are going to be moving this particular conversations that we do of musings as well into the ability to do them live as well. Kyrin's called it out. So that's going to be coming to a podcast near you, any of the good podcasts as well. So be on the we're on the hook for that. So
be on the
lookout for it. And I guess it comes through consistency, right? Now, the reason I wanted to talk to you about consistency was someone did a post on social media, and it wasn't too over the top. They weren't saying, "Hey, look at me, I've done this for 3 weeks in a row." It was something like, I recall now. They'd basically put a post saying, I've fallen off the bandwagon of whatever they were doing. It was something to do with health and fitness. Fallen off the bandwagon. I'm going to get back into it now. This is going to be awesome. And a few weeks afterwards, once again, same thing happened, right?
Okay.
And the bit that struck me, and I did a social post about this as well, was I went to the gym that morning, took a photo of myself just like off the floor with just sweat piling up. And on my mind was like, man, I do this day in, day out, week, month, year, decade, and for a large part, probably for the rest of my life, hopefully. And I know that you do this in other feats, right? Now, I wanted to pull some numbers as well around consistency, which will get us started. And I'm going to ask you a particular question about consistency. If you have, well, I'm gonna preload you with a question while I start reading this. What do you think you've been the most consistent at in your life? If you had to like numbers or thing, and if you can, give me a reason as to why that particular thing. I'm going to give you some numbers while you think about that, Kyrin.
Sure.
In Immortalites at Home, I currently have 6,619 lines of training on my Excel spreadsheet of my current training to today. And that's actually only from the 15th of May, 2023. And I do have books and a few other things that date back all the way to, the early 2010s, 2009, 2008. 1,677 consecutive days of detailed journaling. That's another one that I pulled up. Less days for the sleep tracking, but you kind of get the idea. 342 daily journals for my daughter. And again, these are all consistency, aka it just hasn't been missed. It just continues on and on and on and on. Today I hit 668 days consecutive on Duolingo, albeit not much, but it's consistent. Now, those have been a few of them, but definitely the one that's been of most consistency to me has been that training. And whether it's been actually doing it or writing it, I mean, here you kind of want to be performing the action. And my call out as to why it's been so consistent, I honestly think it was from team sports. It was a little bit from when I used to do swimming when I was much younger. But I think when I started doing soccer primarily, that one built a lot of consistency. I don't know why more than any others and why specifically the team aspect of it, but I think there was a cadence of how you train on a Wednesday and you do some other training on a Thursday and you shoot, you take some penalty shots on a particular day and then you go and play your game on the weekend and you go again and you go again and you go again and it just feels like that kind of like repetitive loop, but with the added factor of friends and people that you want to participate with, I guess made it easy to build up the consistency. I guess it was kind of like forced discipline consistency. But for me, if me and Immortalites at Home don't know this yet, for me, the consistency king that I am, it'd be specifically for training. So there's a couple of numbers. Kyrin, what would be your consistency king in your life? And what do you reckon why?
Yeah, it'd be something similar. Hey, and I was thinking Yeah, I'd probably go all the way back to, when I was like 7 or 8 years old playing tennis, and we didn't really miss training sessions ever. Um, you know, obviously sickness and things like that, but it was never like, if I had a choice, would I miss it? I'd always just go to it. So this same thing with team sports, and then moving into the gym and stuff like that. I don't have numbers here. I wonder, I'm curious about your numbers in the sense that, is it every day? Is it every day? Or, is it the kind of like Duolingo, you get a streak freeze for a day or two here. And you said like what, a daily journal for like 1600 days, didn't you? Something like
Correct.
that. Has that been every single day?
Every single day.
Every single,
So
like the days when you, uh, when do you do this journal?
so usually, and yeah, okay, good pickup here. I haven't missed inputting data into the day, into every single day, but there has been a few days that I didn't do it daily
Like on the actual day?
on the actual day, and then
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
I retrospectively filled it
Yes.
in
Yes.
to
Okay.
like the last 4 days, something for sure.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was getting at. The streak freeze of journaling. So I'm very similar in that sense, which is, I used to have a journal as well, and I probably got up to like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years worth of daily things. Similar thing where there would be something inputted on each day, whether I wrote it on the actual day. 95% of the time I did, but there would be ones where I'd skip. So yeah, similar sort of thing. Someone commented recently that I'm like a health nut, and I
A health
I did,
nut.
yeah, and I disagree with that.
I would disagree with that too.
Yeah, I'm very keen into fitness, and that's about as far as it goes health wise.
It's weird, actually. That's a really good call out, because even me, man, I don't know if I'd be a health nut. I'm not taking my multivitamin every day, and I forget all the time. Like that's that's a good call out. I mean, you take no supplements. I don't know if the Immortalites know this, but Kyrin just takes like nothing, right? Doesn't
I take
even
water.
bloody fluoride.
My brother was disgusted that I only drink really water. He's like, don't you drink anything else, like juice or soft drinks or anything? I'm like, nah, not really.
I began when I was
Alcohol
younger.
every now and then.
My parents know this. We used to, it would have just been from us not knowing, right? When we were growing up, we used to buy maybe 2-liter bottles of Coke, and we used to have that every night for dinner. We used to have like a glass or 2 glasses, and it just became consistent.
Sharing it amongst the family.
Yeah. But now, I mean, now it's similar. Mine, I'm basically water apart from tea and sometimes some juice, and then alcohol if I'm having like a chat with you or chat with friends. That's basically it. There's no like real mix up that's really needed.
Yeah.
Slight
diversion there, but yeah, that was the kind of thing where it's like, I suppose this relates to consistency, where it's, if people see you doing something, that they might add on top of that. So, for example, if lots of people see me at the gym day in day out, they might think that I'm really into, like, I'm consistently there to get strong or to get big or something, which is not the case. I'm there to consistently get better at the skills that I'm trying to do, because they're more skill-based movements. And there's where I think it's like consistency can kind of maybe like mask what you're actually up to. And I've got some thoughts on whether it is actually a good quality or not. So yeah,
really? Okay.
I'll leave that as a
leave that for a little bit of
temptation.
a juicy hook for people.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this one, right? So I'm gonna list out a couple of just like one-liners, and I think we can talk about it. One of them being, so it's the compounding effect of consistency, where small steps taken consistently create some massive impact in some way, shape, or form. And something actually happened today, dude, where I was telling you something about what I've been up to in my personal life just before the podcast. So I won't be able to share it here, but you'll understand the story as I say it fully, and I'll try and divulge as much as I can for the mere Immortalites. So I did a 12-week running plan now, like 5 months ago. I'd done one before a little while ago as well. Wasn't as successful, although I did it. And It wasn't until the last few months where I found it. I've told you this and I've mentioned it before, where I had like almost a label of anxiety of going for a run, just mentally, and I think that was more attributed to shit. Like I'm not going to perform here like I perform everywhere else. That's starting to sway away, but again, it's the small, consistent steps, and the numbers I'm about to say to you, it's not gigantic. It's like I've been doing 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers of over a week running for a couple of weeks now. And over the last few weeks, it's been a slow progression: 10 kilometers, 12 kilometers, 13 kilometers, and 16 kilometers. And then today, I felt like a slug at the gym today, man. I felt terrible. I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here.
It was slime on the ground, not sweat this time.
There was slime on the ground. So I was consistently showing up, but it was slimy. And I went and parked the car near work. I was going to go, and I went, you know what? I'm going to run to this location. It's a little far away. I just want to see it personally, today for this particular reason. And I didn't even check how far away it was. I just went, I'm just going to park the car and just run there. Why not? Fuck it. I just went, ran. It ended up being 3 kilometers to get there from where I'd parked it. And it was the first time that I go, wow, I wasn't necessarily anxious that I wasn't going to reach this. There wasn't any performance metrics. And when I arrived, I was like, yeah, this was, you normally have like your post run or post workout, like euphoria and high energy. I kind of even felt that as I was going through, right? Like as I was going along. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. But again, that level of consistency, and if you see it externally, right? I felt it internally, but if you were to see it externally, and I got a message from someone about this particular run this morning as well. And it kind of struck me as, yeah, it's the small incremental steps. I don't think you can have consistency in like just one gigantic, like in a few gigantic leaps. Would you agree or disagree?
Oh yeah, like getting towards a goal. I suppose so. Yeah. Probably you. Actually, no. I'll take that back, because I think when I think of consistency, I think of repeatable actions of basically the same action, I guess. And when I'm trying to think of, I think we're very much similar in our mindsets when it comes to this. In that, oh yeah, like we want to do the thing all the time, show up every day, that sort of thing. Especially if it's something we enjoy. But I wonder when it comes to people who are like more artistic, perhaps, or they are perhaps more spontaneous in nature, whether they can achieve the things that they want to achieve in life, and if they can do it by it not looking consistent. So I'm just thinking of my ex, for example. She's a pretty good drawer. She would create these really nice watercolors and things like this. But it was very spur of the moment when she would do it. And, sometimes she'd be like, I'm not in the mood for it for a month. And then she would make 5 in a day. And so she still kind of got the reps in a certain extent if you took it over the long term. But if you looked on like a more monthly or even weekly basis, you'd be like, man, this girl's not consistent at all. She must be.
Oh no, I do believe that Kyrin has dropped out, unfortunately. So let's proceed until the man comes back. Now, Kyrin was talking about, yes, I guess consistency in the face of, I guess, the variety. I guess when I think of consistency, I don't particularly look at it as it has to be day to day, right? I guess I would kind of partner up more so with cadence, aka if you're at a cadence of every week or every month, then as long as you're repetitive with it, then I think it can be good. But I do believe we're having our glorious Kyrin Michael down joining us back in again.
I might be back. I don't know if we're live.
He is back. We do appear to be continuing. Hasn't stopped yet.
Okay, brilliant, awesome. Yeah, apologies. My internet actually all of today was glitching out a bit. Can you record your audio just to make sure on your own one?
It is currently recording as well.
Beautiful.
But kind of doubling down on what you were saying, I think there's a difference between consistency. Well, no, not the difference. There is some similarities, or I guess comparisons, that yes, you can be consistent, and it might appear externally that it isn't at the face of it, but if the cadence is repetitive, then it's still good. So I'll give you a direct example, and there's a little hint at my monthly goals. One of my monthly goals this particular month was, hey, read daily the French book. Now, I've made it very clear, daily. It's not like weekly. It's not fortnightly. Kyrin, do you want to take a guess at what cadence I'm currently reading the book?
You would have failed it within like the first 3 days.
Correct. I haven't read a single day. Not a single day has been done, right?
And is that because you missed the first day?
No, it's
Okay.
I've not, it's just fallen and down the bandwagon. Again, you know, some personal stuff that's happening in terms of priorities. Dude, it's way down the list. But the thing is, if I'd said, I'm going to, every month, one day, I'm going to read heavy, then you could still be consistent. That could still be, I would say that that's still consistency at the cadence that you set. Just because a lot of the things that we're finding that we're talking about as being consistently daily showing up in terms of training or putting down your notes, I don't think you can still call it consistent if you're doing it at a different cadence, as long as you're then following through on those actions and whatever cadence it is that is important to you.
Yeah, I think what I was going to get at before was, if you're not consistent, I don't think it's that bad of a thing. It's not a mega trait, which I would say is really essential to have, because with language learning, for example, generally the stats indicate you're better off doing 15 minutes a day for 6 days a week rather than an hour and a half on a Sunday once a week. That's generally what they recommend. Perhaps not exactly that, because 15 minutes, man, that takes a bit of warm-up time as well. So maybe it's more like half an hour a day rather than 3 hours on one single day. But you can still get a lot done with 3 hours in a single day. So this is where it's just like, maybe it's not the most optimal strategy, but whoever has the optimal strategy anyway, you know, I try and get to the gym every afternoon, but sometimes it's a little bit closer to the evening. Sometimes, you know, I stuff up, or I, you know, miscalculate how long. I was thinking of doing a bar class today, and I stuffed it up by about, I don't know, 20 minutes. And so I was like, well, I'd have to really speed up my workout or just miss it. So I was like, oh, I'll just miss it. Whatever. It's not that big a deal. And yeah, this is where I just kind of think like, oh, consistency is nice, but I see a whole lot of people not needing it and still doing pretty well for themselves.
Yeah, well, I would split that up as well, right? Into at least two splits. I don't think you should be too worried about consistency of quality, but you should be concerned about consistency of effort. And I think that's like, if I had to explain this to my daughter or somebody else, I would say, the consistency of quality, sometimes it's out of your control, and sometimes it can be okay if that isn't achieved in the broader context of viewing consistency. What do I mean by that? If every day I went to the gym and I said, I'm going to bench press, and every day the quality is going to be a really perfect form bench press, and I'm hitting a particular weight, maybe linear progression, maybe not, whatever, one of the days is going to miss. Looking at that specifically, that doesn't mean that I'm not being consistent. But if you look at it just from a quality perspective, I think you're starting off with a losing view. That's probably not even, that's where, from what you're saying, I'd go, well, I wouldn't, like, you don't put that much of an effort or that much of a weight towards the consistency of the outcome that you're putting through. But the consistency of effort, I think, is important. That one is, you know, whether, the other way to phrase it would be like whether you showed up to do something, to take forward what you actually want to do, regardless of the outcome. I think that aspect of consistency is probably what makes consistency, if I was having to dissect it down, but makes the overall anyways, what I would see fit as, oh yeah, that person's consistent. I guess I mean it more in, hey, that person's kind of like showing up repeatedly to whatever degree that means to them.
How are you defining consistent in your own head?
Have you got a definition there?
Yeah, but I just want to know what your...
Let me say so consistency in my mind, I would say, is the ability to repeatedly perform an action at a preset cadence of time.
Yeah, it's similar. So consistency, all the definitions are about like of a substance and in terms of arguments and making logical coherence and things. But consistent, the adjective, acting or done in the same way over time, especially so as to be fair or accurate. And I don't think you need that consistent effort, to be honest. It doesn't need to be repeated over time. I think you can space it out if you want and do it like really concentratedly and then not for a while. And it's not a bad thing if you don't have that.
Well, and I guess that's where I'd push back and say, but that's the cadence, right? So I'd agree. Is it consistency if you say I'm going to go daily to the gym, but then you only go once a month and you have a really cracking workout? I kind of go, nah, because you said you were going to go, the cadence was going to be daily. So there's not as much consistency there. But if someone said, I'm going to paint once a month, or I'm going to paint when inspiration hits me, and maybe that's like really variable, but at least there's consistency that when that emotion is felt or a broader amount of time, then you go, okay, I'm going to do it now. That's consistent.
Yeah, maybe we've got different definitions of in the same way over time. I would say it needs to be it does need to have a regular cadence if it was going to be consistent. But
okay,
it's all right.
I'll allow if anyone's listening to the
Juan will allow it. Thank you, Juan.
If there's anyone listening right now live, let me know if you allow this thought process from Kyrin or if you disagree with mine. Consistency versus intensity. So one piece that kind of came to mind when I was thinking about this is it's often when I see people on social media, right, who go real hard at this, because this is where you'll see it a lot, right? You'll see heaps of people. Honestly, this word of being consistent, I don't think ever really gets thrown about when I'm talking to a person on the street. Not really. Even when I'm talking to, I've been talking to a few business owners over the last couple of weeks, just from like in different scenarios. There's a little bit of that, but where you see it a lot, social media. That's where you see it like ton load. It's like, oh, be consistent, post 5 times, post 10 times a day, post whatever. And look, all the best to it if you've got the outcome for it and what's coming through. But there's also the balance of, hey, how intense are you being and how long can you maintain this consistency? I think in general, even though it might not feel like it sometimes in some things, I would favor the longer term game, the more consistent overtime game than the intensely burn for whatever time period until the consistency just falls off, the wheels come off, or some other preset determination happens to it. Do you think in the game of consistency versus the intensity of it, you would ever side with intensity over consistency? Where do you sit on the balance?
Yeah, I'd definitely be more on the consistent side of things. I typed in hustle consistency in Google just to see what comes up. And yeah, you're right. It's mostly it's not Gary V, but there's it's certainly like, from a productivity blog, it's comfortable consistency. And funnily enough, it's like trying to spin it as an anti-hustle thing, or you can have what is this? Consistency inside hustles, or hustle work hard with consistency. What does that even mean? Yeah, it definitely is more of a it does have that kind of hustle motivation type feel to it, doesn't it?
And I think at least for me, I go, if you look at consistency like that, and then you go, well, I'm going to consistently do something that just, if you actually stretch it out to not enough of a long-term future, you go, well, you can't keep that up forever. So is it really the game you want to be playing to be consistent in? Okay, if you want to build the reps if we were doing 10 podcasts per day, and we were building ourselves to handle that or to do that or to have the assets, is it even smart to build that consistency? Because I don't know about you, but there's no way I'd be keeping up 10 of the current format shows that we do, right? There's no way. It wouldn't happen. The Mere Mortals, if you haven't been around here for a little while, the Mere Mortals podcast, we were on a pace of one podcast a day. That was
actually 8, because I included the reseñas in Spanglish. So there was a period where
8 podcasts a week.
Yeah, there was a release of 8 things a week. Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit over. So 1.1 something recurring in terms of how much we were releasing.
It was a lot.
Sorry, a little bit more. Damn. And looking back at that, I don't know how long we did that for. Maybe 1 year.
Decent time. Yeah, decent time period. I'd say at least 6 months, something like that.
Yeah, it was a good long while. That was, look, and again, you can call that period of time, yes, we were consistent, but versus the intensity that required meant that couldn't be consistent for a long-term pathway. And I think often people fall down the wagon of things being intense and loading up the creation of consistency for that, when in reality, I mean, I don't know about you. At this point, I don't think I see anything anymore as, hey, I'm going to build that consistency unless I can do it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, no, I'll be willing to go through like spurts of things. I'd be like, so for example, when I go to Brazil, I do plan on doing a pretty kind of intensive thing related to Portuguese and learning it. And I do plan on doing that basically just for the kind of 3 months that I'm there and actually using it, because that's just a really unique situation. I'm not going to get an opportunity like that really, maybe ever again. So that's one where I'm like, I plan on, being consistent every day for probably like, I don't know, 3 months roughly ish of 3 hours of study maybe, and then trying add on as much talking as I can on top of that. But obviously I won't continue that for the rest of my life. So I think there's still room for bursts of things where it does have a bit more intensity to it, and does require that daily or repeated action over time. But it won't. The goal is not to become so good at Portuguese that it's like the most important thing in my life sort of deal. It'll be like, no, I'd love to get conversational in it. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a good point. Yeah. Okay. I can see how there might be some things that you'd point in time in life that would be fine to have for a certain time and then lose that consistency. Maybe that's it's the meta qualities of putting, I guess, what actions in place to achieve X outcome that you're after on a consistent basis. Maybe it's those sort of qualities that maybe go towards the entirety of life. But no, that's a good point.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to find this meme that I saw the other day. It was something along the lines of like, I just turned 30 and no one told me that all my friends would start doing marathons.
Yes.
I thought that was so bang on, man. I was just like, oh my God, all my friends are getting into running. It's weird. Since when did Juan and Manchu run?
I think there's a weird trend at the moment going where there's a lot more run club. We're talking Australia here. I don't know if there's a global thing, but there's a lot more run clubs. There's a lot more people pivoting into doing running. I'm seeing just a lot of shoes, like a lot of material stuff's being produced for running.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably take a step further. I think no one ever told me that when you went past 30, everyone would become more aligned to endurance versus the intensity, velocity, sprinting. How many of our friends do we see doing sprints? Getting into sprinting or something of high intensity, like short bursts of energy. Not many. Everyone's either sedentary or going towards doing more longer endurance type movements.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
who knows? Could be another little fun thing I learned recently. I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about the death of shopping malls in America. This was Beer Bourbon and Balderdash. And as they were talking about this, I was like, you know what? I can't think of any abandoned shopping malls here in Australia. Is this just a US thing? And it turns out it actually was. because, or at least according to Reddit, and the amount of threads of people being like, I'm in Australia and do we have a shopping mall crisis or anything like that? And this was just due to like the unique makeup of shopping malls in America. Most of them don't have a grocery in them. Most of them are kind of like retail of shoes and shirts and things like that. And when online shopping came, grocery shopping didn't really get affected, but online shopping decimated clothing and things like that. And hence, like, all of these shopping malls they had basically just became literally untenable, because
that's I didn't think about that, actually. I was just thinking back to the times of going to shopping centers, and you're right, there wasn't a Woolies or a Coles, and I always found that to be an issue. Like, I remember it being difficult to go to a grocer that I wanted fresh produce. You ended up just going to a shopping center, and that you just have the food court, and then you'd have to eat a Panda Express or something else like that, and you'd be like, man, I want some fresh food. So
yeah.
okay.
So the running thing could just be could just be an Aussie thing. Is definitely possible.
True, that's very true. Let's get into the Boostagram Lounge.
Let's do it.
Let's talk through it and talk about the people who've been supporting the podcast.
I'll talk about this. So the Boostagram Lounge is where we thank people who've supported the show monetarily. We'll talk right at the end about how you can support us in a variety of different ways, but this is for the people who have sent us in a message using a new podcast app. Go to meremortalspodcast.com/support. You can see a whole bunch of them there, links there as well. And there's where you can send a message directly within the app, and it will come to us. And to be able to send the message, you have to put a payment of Satoshis onto that, which is a portion of Bitcoin. Just really easy, simple thing to have. Really easy and simple. It's not that easy and simple, but it is getting easier. Apparently, TrueFans is Sam is looking at being able to top up your wallet with Google Pay or an Apple Pay. So when that happens, I will let you guys know, because then it will be simple and easy.
That would make it very, very simple.
And yeah, just sending in a message. You can put an interesting number attached to it, your favorite one. The numerology is fun. It comes directly to us, gets split up between Juan, myself, a joint wallet we have, and then going out to support some developers as well. So we very much do appreciate it. And this is how we continue doing this show.
Absolutely. Now, we have gotten some big boy boosts, but that's been over in the Valley for Valley space.
Correct, yes.
So we do have just one to call out this week from Cole McCormick, and he sends 2,222 sats, row of ducks, using Fountain. He says, phenomenal talk. Jason sounds like a wicked smart guy. His vision for video is something I see too. When my host Podhome enables it, video will be key. There you go.
There we go.
Video will be key, Kyrin. Thoughts?
A type of it. I'd be down. Yeah, we'll do an episode on this in a week or two. But I see a point for video, just perhaps not in the way that Cole's imagining.
Okay.
Yeah. And Podhome is the host that we're debating looking at moving over to, because they do have a lot of the podcasting 2.0 functionalities, and
do we have any better options right now?
Well, I mean, Blueberries, they say they're just about to release all of this new stuff, so that'll be cool, because I've already moved 2 of our shows onto there. But Buzzsprout has been very lagged in there, especially when I requested, especially the lit. That's all I really wanted, and yeah, they've been lagged on it. So a cool new host has popped up, so I'm willing to take a bet and move it over and spend the time and energy to do that. And yeah, Cole's using Podhome and seems to be doing well with them as well. So yeah,
there you go. More proof in the pudding. But once again, yes, it's those boosts. It's
thank you,
coming
Cole.
through that do help the podcast. So obviously, thank you, Cole. And if you do want to support, obviously go check out the Meme Podcast /support. You're going to find out a video Kyrin did a little while ago, helps you out with a few of those good podcast apps out there that allow you to do that. If you do send through enough support, at this point, this shirt's getting pretty pricey. But
it's getting
100,000 sats that you send through to the podcast, you're going to get a free shirt. There's not too many of them, But you better get in quick, because honestly, at the way these prices are going, this is probably going to be one of the most expensive shirts in existence.
I think there's 20 shirts left. Let me check my thing. No, 19 left. So
19 left. Technically, that makes it what, $1,900 worth of shirts in value, mate. In value,
even a bit more than that now.
Even
right?
a bit more. Unbelievable. We're fighting inflation with shirts.
Crazy, and I'm just keeping it in my room here with. It's more expensive than the camera equipment, the lighting equipment, the microphones. At
this point, folks, you're paying for the dehumidifier and mothball, like, to keep out the animals to kill these shirts because they're so expensive.
I'm gonna have to get a vault to store these shirts and
to keep it consistent as well. Anything on the PayPal?
Oh my god, no. I'm pretty sure not. I'm pretty sure I get a message when that comes through, but I will double check that just because you called it out. And you can also stream in as well. We don't call out the streaming payments because they're too hard to do on a weekly basis. But if you do stream in, I will notice that, and maybe at the end of the month I can call you out if I see you've been doing a lot. But I know people like MCKR and who else? I know some people, tuning into various different things. Sorry, I have this. I wasn't sure if you're recording, and when I click this button here, it just blasted my ears with this pre-recorded music. So I'm glad no one else heard that. But yeah, damn, if you're hearing me or seeing me wince, that's the reason.
That's the reason why.
I've just turned it off. No PayPals, no PayPals.
Okay, got to be consistent about it. So back to consistency, I wanted to actually ask you a question, more so in the value for value space, because you absorb a lot more of the value for value content that's being put out there into the ether, music,
Definitely.
podcast, you name it. How important is consistency in that sphere?
Yeah, I moderate. I don't know. This is where it's kind of hard to tell in some cases, because I've taken a big gap with the value for value podcast, for example. It's about 3 months, maybe 4, and jumping back into it again. Support's been pretty good. It hasn't feel like I've needed to drag people back in. Just a little bit of social posting saying like, hey, this is starting up again. I might have lost some people who were showing up every week, but I think kind of like once I'm 10 weeks into it, it will get back to that stage where it is regular people showing up every time. And yet, if you compare that to like the book reviews, for example, man, that's consistent podcast, man. It's been a long time since we've. I know there was just a transition period once, probably about 5 months ago, where
I was going to say, statistically wise, I reckon we've deviated 1% of the time, 0.5% of the time the entire thing has been in existence.
Yeah, exactly. The book reviews are probably even better than this show, to be honest. And it hasn't received support, and I put that down mostly due to the crowd it was attracting, and then also the way I was asking. And I probably should have been from the very start been asking for PayPals for on the book reviews, and just consistently ramming that home. One thing I will say though is I think doing the ask is something that is important, and trying to make it, I guess, like friendly for newbies as well, because there's a tendency to be like, we're 600 episodes into this now, 438 for these ones between you and me, add in the monthly goals on top of that as well, and we'll just say words like they're like we've said them 400 times before, which we have. But someone new coming in would just be like, Boostagram, what's that? I don't know. Value for value, what does that mean? I don't know. And so there is, I think, a technique to being consistent in the ask, for example, with your call to action as well. And this is just straight up, like YouTube advice as well. If you're creating YouTube videos, you have to be really, really on the money with asking your audience to like and subscribe and hit the bell and all that sort of thing. And you'll notice the same people doing the same technique of bringing up this chart only 5% of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. Maybe you should change that. I'd like to, so that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think there is a lot of value in repeatability. And then the last one on top of this was so value for value music. So this is musicians who are kind of dissatisfied with how they've been treated by Spotify and by Bandcamp and all these sorts of places. Snoop Dogg, it goes from the very lowest to the very highest. Snoop Dogg, got 1 billion plays of his music and earned 45K from that. That's a pittance. I was doing the math on it, and it's like 0.02, so 2 cents per CPM per cost per mil. In like in podcasting, you could get like 500x that, if I'm doing my math right. Like that's like a $10 CPM. You can get even more than that. And so value for value music is musicians who are like, okay, well, I want to try doing my music value for value. I've never been able to really put podcast music into podcasts before because the licensing is all sort of whack. You can't really do it. Radio stations can kind of do it, but podcasts really can't do it because it doesn't fall under the same thing. And so they're just putting music they own up onto an RSS feed, and then people like me are grabbing it and putting it in my show for the outro song, or there's dedicated music shows which are kind of like radio DJ sets, things like this. And the repeatability of Adam was saying this, so he's Adam Curry, former MTVJ, former DJ on pirate radio stations in the Netherlands back in like the 1980s, something like that. He forgot one of the core tenets of radio, which is like, if you just repeat a song enough times, people like it. So many of the pop songs, they're just catchy because it's been repeated so many times. It's ingrained in the brain, and there's nothing particularly about that song which is so much better than any of the others. And if you grabbed, I argue, if you grabbed Bloodshot Lies by the Doorfalls and you played it as much times as one of Taylor Swift's songs, I think everyone would still remember that song just as much as they'd remember any of Taylor Swift songs or whatever. So that's also getting to that kind of repeatability, consistency, I guess. It's more the repeatability aspect of it. But if you consistently hear something enough times, it'll get like lodged in your brain.
Yeah, I mean, I debate that, but I agree on the principles of what you're saying. I'd agree on the principles. I debate that you could do that with any any old song you would choose.
Yeah,
but I think it would have a bigger impact.
More like, yes, if you're doing like acoustic jazz, it's not going to have the same effect as pop, for example. So Bloodshot Lies is a very pop heavy song, so that's why I use that as an example. But yes, there is that aspect to it. I wanted to bring up this one.
Oh,
if you how would you describe consistency to Vienna, and would you say it's like a really good thing? It's a good quality to have, being consistent.
I wrote something down, and I think it probably still applies to this, where I say, would I say it this way? Maybe I'll just say consistency is good, but it's not just about the routine. It's the refuge that you get because you're following through on a more empty-minded pursuit of the activity that you want to do eventually. So I guess it would come about to is it good? Yes. But underlying the goodness of it, the greatness of consistency, is that it kind of puts you in autopilot to then either hone in even more into your specialty and become even more of a master, or to dissipate the threshold that it takes to do whatever effective activity it is that you're doing, if that kind of makes sense. So, if we we do the podcast, right? Actually, no, I'll take an even more clear view. Book reviews, right? I've probably done maybe 50. You've probably done the other 300, right? Whatever, maybe 350.
I think
And
we're a bit more than that as well.
if the initial book reviews, it took some kind of like getting over the hump and taking the notes and doing all the things and then doing it and not redoing it, all that sort of stuff. And look, I haven't had much consistency with them as of late, just because I was moving places and I didn't have the setup that I was happy with. But because there's been enough consistency over the many years, today I did a double, right? Which we're going to release kind of as you start traveling through. And the consistency of just doing it in the past allowed me to do it, but semi on autopilot. And so it was more of a refuge of the mind where there wasn't as much threshold to doing the activity. There wasn't much. It was just set up and go. There was almost like joy in the editing of it as well. And so the consistency part allows you to do the actions, and it was great. But it's the refuge of the mind that comes along. So in short, yes, how would I tell Vienna? Yes, it's good. And even better because it helps you with the autopilot mentality of it all.
Yeah, sure. I'll start this off with the famous Einstein quote, which does not seem to actually be something that he said, but we'll go with it.
Vaguely attributed to him.
Vaguely
Attributed to him by the mere mortals.
Yeah, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And this is where I kind of look at consistency, and I'm like, yeah, just because you can do the same thing over and over again doesn't mean the thing is good in itself. And this is something that I struggle with at times, where I look at the podcast, for example, and we get into a really consistent thing. Okay, 7 p.m. We're here every week, and maybe we're not innovating enough. Maybe if we took a week for reformatted and had a break or did it at a different time or something like that, it would work better. It would see different results, perhaps better results. And consistency, same with the gym. Like I could practice handstands all day long just doing the same thing, but unless I switch it up, unless I do different drills and things like this, like I'm not going to progress. And this is where I kind of just think consistency is kind of like a neutral kind of quality to have, and it just amplifies all the other ones. So if you are consistent as well as conscientious, then you'll probably be going like, oh, I'm consistently doing this thing, I'm not getting the results that I want. Okay, this is insanity. Einstein quote, thank you, Mr. Einstein. I'll use that to my advantage. I'll change things up and try and do something different. But if you're consistently lazy, and you never show up to the thing that you say you will, you're consistent, but it's not like helping you. It's not aiding you in your pursuit of a good life or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So yeah, I very much view it as a neutral thing in comparison to some other qualities where I'd probably be like, yeah, that's by and large that'll serve you well in life. This one is kind of just like maybe it will.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because another one that like what pops into mind is, what's the most consistent thing that's going to happen in life? It's probably going to be change. Like the most consistent thing that's going to happen to you is there's going to be changes. Things are going to vary. And I think that's the paradox of consistency. Maybe it's you have to be consistently prepared for things to change. Now, to the point of how amazing is that quality? Again, getting back to your like previous question of how would I go about teaching it? I don't think consistency would be the parent, the mother quality that I'd be lining up first as, hey, of the many things you can be in life, consistency is like a really great one that you should just like really pristinely put forward. Not really. I think you can do amazing things and you can enjoy life without a whole host of consistency. That can be done. I think there's a lot of things in life that you kind of need consistency to help you with it. Again, getting back to the making it easier to get past the threshold. But if you're like a beast, if you're disciplined or just vicious with the ability of doing work, then you don't have to be consistent. You just maybe get up and go What time is it? I don't care. Good. 1 hour of just whatever you need to do right now. Doesn't matter if it's consistent or not. You're just doing it, and you're going to go full tilt until your, blood boils. Whatever. Okay, you can probably get through a lot of things and get through some growth doing that, right? You don't have to be that consistent. You just have to go really viciously at a particular activity at enough times, and maybe you accomplish it, maybe you don't. So I think only if prompted. I think if I was prompted to talk specifically about it or something adjacent, then it would come up, but it wouldn't be the first thing that comes up as a great learning piece or key thing that's going to get discussed. No.
Sounds good, man.
So maybe turning it all the way around, is consistency, and I'll summarize it this way: is consistency beneficial? Yes. Is consistency the one and only thing and a mother quality? No, it isn't. But has it served me well? Again, going back to the numbers, there's a lot of consistency there in the daily tracking of both fitness and the journaling. And I know that one day I'll look back and be like, I was really happy that I was consistent with it. But it isn't the things that I think I'm going to be happy. I don't have to be consistent about eating the same food every day, or consistently wearing white shoes, or consistently stepping to the left 3 times when I go out of my house and then right 22 times into it. That doesn't matter, right? There's like redundancies in consistency. And so I'd say, look, there's some value in consistency. Apply it to where you want the threshold to be minimized, and you want it to find yourself doing activities that you want to do easier. That's where the quality kind of like shines best.
Here's I think that's a good summary. I won't add anything to that. I'll just add this anecdote, a real life one, about where consistency got someone in trouble, or it didn't help. Didn't get them in trouble. So my roommate, she does Duolingo as well. She's doing German, and she was doing that, and then she missed a day. It's like, bummer. Missed a day, had a 30 days going or whatever. But she had a streak fees, and so it froze it, and it was like, okay, you can just start again, and it will be as if you didn't miss that day. That's just how Duolingo tries to keep you in, keep you motivated, all this sort of thing. Works for most people. For her, it was like, no, it feels like I'm cheating. I don't want it there. I'd rather start again. And so she wanted to start again the next day, but then there was like a double streak fees, and so she she had to wait like 3 days until it all reset and then could go again. And so this is where the consistency, in some respect, like she missed a day, and she would have got back onto it, but maybe I'm maybe there's something else, but I was just going like, she wanted to keep doing things, but for whatever reason it demotivated her to not do it.
Now,
and
does your housemate know that a streak freeze doesn't count to the total tally of days?
I'm not sure. I'll have to ask her if she knows that or not.
Because it doesn't. It doesn't actually count it.
Yeah, there you go. But I think it was more like, I've done this many days in a row, but I actually haven't. AKA one, rationalizing, not doing the daily journal, even though it says daily journal, that sort of thing. But yeah, I maybe it's slightly off topic compared to that, but yeah, I thought it was a funny little anecdote.
Yeah. I don't know. I get to that point of, you were saying, it's not consistent if you're not actually doing it daily. I kind of go, well, I don't know. I don't think that's true. I don't know if that's particularly true in the sense of, like, I guess it's it falls back into the original query that I put forward of, I think consistency is not about so much of the outcome, but it's the effort that kind of matters. And so that's maybe how I rationalize it, to say, yes, you're not the exact outcome of like doing it every day might not be happening, but the effort of filling it in back or re-noting it down so that it's all full by whatever time period, and I go, okay, cool. I would still deem that as consistent. But I think me and Kyrin are diverging views on that. So if you want to
pretty much
align with Kyrin, then message, drop on Boostagram. If you want to align with me, don't send anything. So then that's how I'm going to know the differences, whether someone actually like align with me or not.
We end up getting like 200 Boostagrams in.
All of a sudden, there's like 200 Boostagrams that come through in the next podcast. We're like, okay,
wouldn't say no. Wouldn't say no to
that. Cool. Okay. Well, that's all I have for the consistency today, folks. Once again, we're live always at 7 p.m. Australian Standard Time. I didn't say this, the 13th of March 2024. Damn, forgot what month it is. Going so quick, man. In fact, for the people who've been here for a little while, obviously been talking about my daughter. She turns 1 in 7 weeks. So that's how fast time has flown if you've been listening to the podcast every now and again. Yeah, time moves quick, folks. Be consistent in the things that you do, but don't dissuade away from the even more important stuff that sometimes comes away from consistency. Again, if you want to support the podcast, Kyrin already talked about it, but Boostagram and streaming is really the key way that we're wanting to get you to support us. You can share the podcast. You can talk about it to your mates. You can listen to it in various platforms. But sending through a Boostagram, streaming through at this point is the most beneficial thing for us. It keeps us overjoyed. Again, not directly to this podcast, but through the Value for Value. We're kind of like live reacting to a pretty large boost that kind of came through. And in the current day where the price of things are at, we were like, whoa, this is pretty crazy that we were just seeing this come through. So look, it makes us really joyous when we see that come through, and hopefully we can respond to you as well. And that's what we do on the Boostagram Lounge in a week-to-week basis. That's consistency, folks, and we've been doing this coming up to 5 fucking years now. So
it's getting there. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. Pay attention, folks. Pay attention. We'll leave it there for now.
4.5 years in 2 days' time.
How is it? 4 years.
4.5 years in 2 days' time.
There you go. Consistency. Consistent. I think if you break it down, do you reckon we've done at least 1,000 pieces of content?
It'd be pretty close to that, yeah.
Yeah. It won't be, it won't be that number, but it would be like we'd be closing in on almost 1 piece of content per day for the 4.5 years. Pretty close.
No, not that close.
Well, I was thinking like content also would be including like Instagram reels and clips and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Well, would be way over in terms of that, and just double. Yeah. But I don't count that.
Again, and I think the proof is in the pudding. Sometimes you don't recognize consistency until you look back fucking whatever amount of years and you go, holy shit, actually we were consistent. Whether it makes all the difference, who knows? We'll leave it there for now. More lads, I hope you enjoy yourself wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for tuning in for now. Peace. One out.
Kyrin out. Bye.